All right, I watched Wonder Woman 84 or 1984 a second time. Did it do any better on the second? What? No, no, it didn't. Um, yeah, just about all the complaints about it just are all true. It is too long. There are elements there that I think would have been better had it been shorter, and I'd tighten that up a bit. So that you don't dwell on too much of the bad. First of all, elements out of the comic books. This is not Cheetah, and this is not Max Lord. Max Lord is not really a main Wonder Woman villain. Those two come into place because of some time ago they had a series there where Max Lord he was the main villain, and he had taken Max Lord's power has nothing to do with Dreamstones or any of that sort of stuff. He got the ability to control people's minds after an alien invasion. The series literally called Invasion, and they were experimenting with the meta humans within the Earth population. Anyway, long-winded story, but as a result of that, apparently he developed this power to control people's minds, and when he's really taxing his power, blood runs out of his nose. I guess that's the scene of the nod to that when he's the power of the Dreamstone is killing him in the story. So I guess that's what that's meant to be, but that's not the power he had. So I guess because they wanted the Donald Trump archetype, so to speak, that is only barely there. It's always a television personality, running his supposed oil company, which is just a shell company, basically, and he didn't really have the money, and that's what they're seeing Trump as, I guess. And for the whole idea, the 80s was bad. You're always pursuing what you wanted at any cost, and that sort of thing. So I guess that's what that was supposed to be. But there is a character of magical power within the Wonder Woman lore, and that's Cersei. So they could have had her in there, tempting Wonder Woman with Steve Trevor being returned and that sort of thing. Cheetah, of course, to be fair, Cheetah has had several versions. There's been several women and even a man at some point being the villain of Cheetah, although I don't think that really counts because it was rather brief. But Barbara Minerva was only one of them, and I guess they just pretty much settled on that, I guess, because I don't know, the name Minerva. And of course, DC, they reboot, they revamp, and comic books do this all the time, and so there were different versions of it. Initially, she was a woman in a costume, which I still kind of prefer, I guess, because of the Super Friends cartoon I grew up with. But then they later decided, no, she's transformed into, this half human, half cat creature. And this all had to do with some, lost mysterious tribe that had a shaman with powers and all this sort of stuff. It's a long-winded story, but you could have utilized that in the story. And certainly, because the movies are adaptations, so they do change things, but to change it that drastically, where it's all about this Dreamstone, I don't know. And then the evil god, I guess the devil or whatever that created it, never comes into play and all that. But but the more important thing about Cheetah, despite the varied, different characters that had been Cheetah and all that, and of course I could understand you solidifying on one, and if you just go with Barbara Minerva, that would be fine. Is that Cheetah, despite all of that, represents the big main arch nemesis of Wonder Woman. Superman has Lex Luthor, Batman has Joker. She's got Cheetah, and that's and this is what you get. It's it's not a whole lot. It's very brief and quick. Of course, the CGI is not great. There's several moments here because I forgave the CGI in the first film, which a lot of people just hated it. At the final fight didn't really bother me that much. Here, God, it's just I don't understand. I mean, I guess they ran out of time and COVID. I mean, maybe they could toss that off as an excuse, but this movie had a lot of time. And some of the scenes when she's running in the big fight in Egypt and all that, it looks really bad. And then Cheetah herself, well, it's so dark you can barely see her. All you can really see is the magic lasso because it glows. And so it's very, very underwhelming. And they have their fight, and then it's over. It's just the fight in the White House where she hasn't turned into Cheetah yet is a little bit better, but she's still not Cheetah. So I don't know what happened there, but it didn't work. Kristen Wiig she plays the same character she always plays. Even there's elements in there that reminded me of some of her sketches on Saturday Night Live. I can't remember how it would go, but it was where she played this woman who kept making stuff up and then just joking, just kidding, and then she would say it again. But that's almost there. That's pretty much who this character is. But that in and of itself, other elements had been corrected. I don't think it would have mattered. She probably would have been all right. Other women could have been better, but I don't think that's too bad of a thing in there. It's just one more thing that's bad about a bad movie. The return of Steve Trevor, which for whatever reason decided it had to be like Quantum Leap. I don't understand it. It's not consistent with the other wishes that people get, which are almost instant. Right off the bat, they give you the clue of what the whole Dreaming Stone wish, fulfillment thing is that this guy, they're looking at it and they're reading it and it claims it can grant wishes. And then this guy overhearing that says, I'd wish for a cup of coffee. And then suddenly this guy shows up and says, hey, I got an extra coffee. So-and-so didn't come into work or whatever it was. And the guy says, oh, look at that. And he grabs it and he gets the coffee. He takes a drink of it. And then you can hear him going, oh, hot, hot, hot. So that's the penalty he paid for that, the monkey's paw element of this. He paid for the coffee by the pain of it being too hot. So it's already telling you, what the rules are here, and which is fine. That works. But notice it's instantaneous with him. It's even instantaneous in the sense for Barbara. She just doesn't realize it's happened yet. The moment she almost trips, but she skips perfectly. When before she couldn't walk in heels very well, and now she can. And eventually, she rips her refrigerator door off the handle and something's going on here, and all of that. Her sexiness that she suddenly achieves is she changes clothes. And suddenly everybody's in love with her and all this sort of stuff. But that could be more of the Dreamstone, just making everybody feel that way about her. But anyway, but for Diana, right off the bat, she's sitting there and she's obviously wishing for Steve Trevor to come back to life. And so all we see is his watch begins to tick back at her apartment and all that sort of stuff. And it takes a good long while. And then this guy who looks nothing like Steve Trevor shows up and tries to talk to her. She says, leave me alone. I don't know you. And then suddenly he's Chris Pine. And so Steve Trevor's back, and I don't know how it happened, but it's all this Quantum Leap. They even do the mirror thing where he looks in the mirror and it's the other guy and all this stuff. Of course, this creates the problem that a lot of people notice. So they get together, and what do? They have sex, yes, but it's not Steve Trevor's body. It's this other guy who's possessed by Steve Trevor. And they never address this. They sort of laugh at the guy. They make fun of his apartment and his clothes and the dumb fashion hall and stuff. A lot of these elements, they immediately approached it. Okay, we'll mirror what happened in the first movie where, Diana doesn't understand the rest of the world. She's been living on the island all that time and all that. And so now it's Steve Trevor's turn because he's a man out of time. He's all amazing. That in and of itself is fine, and I understand that. but it doesn't really matter. The main problem here is what happens. So essentially, yes, Wonder Woman rapes a man because he's like, come on, it's Wonder Woman. Who wouldn't want to? Well, it simply reversed the roles, and of course, you would imagine the outrage. Who is this guy? We don't know anything about him. Why is he picked? I thought I would have revealed that he was a distant relative of Trevor, like a great grand nephew or something like that. Because I don't think Trevor would have had any kids himself unless he just wasn't very honest about his situation there. So they could have done that, but it doesn't make any sense at all. And it's just, and why do it? It's completely unnecessary. It would have been much better if he just appeared. They have a scene where a guy wishes his ancestral homes and or lands or whatever would be his, and no one else could have them. And so this ginormous wall appears out of nowhere, splitting up the country and keeping people out and all this stuff, and leads to damn near World War III over it and all this stuff. Yet you can't have Steve Trevor just magically appear. Diana works at the Smithsonian here, so you could imagine there could have been a scene where there's a World War I display, perhaps a mannequin in the outfit that Steve Trevor had at the time, and then suddenly she passes by it, and suddenly it's real and it's him, and there you go. But the end result is the same. What's the heroism of Diana? She has to give up her only main desire, the one thing she wants. She asks for nothing else. She's happy to save people's lives and all that stuff. She just wants Steve Trevor. Why can't she have that? And that's the sadness of it. And that's one of the good parts of the film, and especially because of the great chemistry between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. They probably should partner up for other characters. I don't know, but it works very well, and it's kind of reminiscent to me of the Star Trek films. The best thing about the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films was that cast, even in really bad movies like Into Darkness, which is the absolute worst of those films. The one good thing about it is the cast was really good, but unfortunately they were not served well by the material, and that's true here. So yeah, that Quantum Leap business, they should not have done that. Of course, the movie's too long, and again, I think the whole Dreamstone thing could have been avoided. They just use Cersei. I guess because they wanted a Trump guy in there, I guess is what they turned Max Lord into. That's not really his story at all. Has nothing to do with that. He was this businessman who was the financial backer of the Justice League at one point. Then he becomes this sort of government operative, and they even retconned it to where he was the original leader of Suicide Squad before Amanda Waller took over, stuff like that. But that's kind of what he was involved in. Secrets and black ops and that sort of thing. And of course his mind control power. Because I forgot the whole story about Wonder Woman's involvement in that story was that he took over Superman's brain, mind, what have you, and they couldn't stop him. And Wonder Woman tried to control Superman with a magic lasso. It didn't work. With Maxwell Lord, he couldn't stop him. He says, I'll tell the truth, but I'm not going to stop controlling Superman. And so she had no other choice but to snap his neck. And so she kills Maxwell Lord in that story. And so they make Maxwell Lord is Wonder Woman's main nemesis just because of that, And I think he was supposed to have been in the TV series they were going to do with Adrian Palicki. He did show up in Supergirl for a while, and then all of a sudden they just wrote him out. But that's not really his story at all. And too long. There's other elements that I could think, you could cut this, and there's things that don't make sense. The price for her initial wish is that she loses her powers. Well, I guess slowly, or maybe it's meant to mean that she's now like an ordinary Amazon, which are still stronger and more powerful than the average human being, but not as great as Wonder Woman, who was a demigoddess, But then there's the scene where they give the nod to the invisible jet, which is cool, and it's like a nice nod to it. But she's doing this after she's lost her power. So she's saying, oh, this is the trick of how Zeus was able to hide Themyscira from the world of man. And so she's going to do the same trick with the jet. And it's okay, fine, but she's losing her powers. So she's able to do this. It doesn't quite work. And all of that. So, and plus the golden armor, which is cool looking and all of that, and like a nod to Kingdom Come and stuff like that. But and at the time I thought, when I had seen the trailers and stuff and you realize what the plot is that, oh, well, she needs the armor because she doesn't have her powers as much anymore, so she needed that extra protection. No, she renounces her wish before this fight happens, and that's it. Steve Trevor's gone. She gives him up, and she goes off to stop Max Lord, and ends up fighting with Cheetah. She stops on the way while learning to fly. She's, I better go back to my apartment and pick up my other suit. And it's, I guess because of the wings was supposed to help her glide a little better. Maybe that's why she did it. But so it's just there to look cool, and that's it. It fits into for the teaser in the credits, which is Linda Carter's appearance, where the armor originally belonged to this ancient Amazon who fought off the armies of man while the Amazons escaped to Themyscira. And but they made the great sacrifice, and it turns out she's still alive, and her name's Asteria, and so that's Linda Carter playing that role, and that's all it is for a little tee-hee in-credit scene, which, fine and everything, but the suit in and of itself was just rather unnecessary for the scene. The whole thing about, well, she reached out to everybody through the magic lasso attached to Max Lord, and that somehow convinced everybody to renounce their wishes. Not buying that. That's just, it was a terrible ending. The resolution just doesn't work at all. Seemed like it would have been better just to say if Max Lord renounces his wish, then all the other wishes evaporate because he's no longer the Dreaming Stone. By the way, that was his wish. He gets the stone finally, and he says, I want to be the Dreaming Stone. Why didn't he just turn into a giant rock sitting in his chair? He didn't say, I want the powers of the Dreaming Stone. He should have said it like that, but so it's all pretty stupid. And then he's able to grant, because Barbara Minerva had already had her wish to be powerful like Diana, and then she says, I want to be an apex predator. She doesn't specifically say a cheetah. And then he says, I'm going to grant you this. I didn't think, because earlier they demonstrated you only get one wish, so once you got one, he can't give you another one. But then he just does. So it's messy all over the place. So largely some of the plot points could still work, but it had to be tightened down and clamped down, and all the idiocy taken out. The whole Steve Trevor's return, very bad. Should not have been done that way. And keep in mind, how much power does Diana have? As she's lost, what is it? And you got to keep that straight. Didn't do it. Again, the cast is good. Certainly, Gal Gadot and Chris Pine are excellent together, but that's about it. And that's just very unfortunate. I wanted to like this thing. I had high hopes for it. I was getting worried about this and that. A lot of the political stuff, it's there, but I just don't think it really matters. The stupid thing about the Reagan guy wanting more weapons, that good Lord, that's not what happened. It's not even close. But it's rather minimal. It's not there for much, and it could have, it wouldn't have mattered beyond that. But all these other things just drags it all down. The big scene in the mall where she's fighting and everything, and it's cool at some moments. The robbers themselves are rather comical. You can almost get a movie out of that. They're kind of funny. But then she works so hard not to hurt anybody, and then she drops them on the police car and flattens it. They would not have survived that. So it just, I don't know how you get there in some of these mistakes that are made, but they're there. One or two you could forgive and the movie would be all right, but it's just a big mess, and to drag it on for as long as it was just makes it even worse. So I don't know what happened. There's another story, a rumor saying that she got rid of all of Zack Snyder's stunt coordinators and that sort of thing, and she wanted her own crew. That's one explanation for what went wrong. I don't know, but something went wrong, and you really needed to rethink this, and they didn't. And one final thing of comic book lore and whatnot, the Wonder Woman, they actually do have the line in there where Steve Trevor's explaining his love of flying, and he says you got to ride the wind. That was often used as an explanation for Diana in earlier times. After the Crisis, they just threw it in there. She can fly like Superman, and that's it. Where before, she understood some means by which you could ride the winds. So that's what she would do. And so she could glide, I guess. Not really flying per se, but if she was up high, she could kind of ride the winds, if you will, back to the surface safely, I guess. So I guess, that's a nod there. Maybe that's part of Jeff Johns' influence because he knows that stuff. But that's about it. So they immediately announced Wonder Woman 3 is on board, and Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot will be back for that and all that stuff. This always happens. Remember, Star Trek 4 was announced before Star Trek 3, Star Trek Beyond was released. So it never happened. So that doesn't necessarily mean it will. If everything collapses into ruins for DCEU, the next thing up will be Snyder Cut. And they're banking an awful lot on that. But this sort of thing is not good. And so we'll see about that. But that's kind of what that is, to drum up excitement that it's so good that we're already going to do another one. It has such a great film, and the follow-up is, this bad. It's sad, of course, but it's just quite astounding. But been seeing a lot of that in the current era of filmmaking. I was just hoping this would be spared that, but perhaps Miss Jenkins was just a one-hit wonder, and these things happen. That's too bad. I guess next for her will be the Star Wars film she's going to do. Boy, Star Wars is... they're making a comeback thanks to Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker, but there's already troubled waters there within Lucasfilm, so I don't know. So, but that's too bad about Wonder Woman. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.